Honestly speaking, there is no such thing as overnight success. In fact, Rome was not built in a day, and all great things take times to mature. But in reality, it is 18 years of hard work, resilient hard work, which went underway to that global recognition. All successes requires that minimum input of 10,000 hours. Human mind is wired for immediate success. Human beings try to see linear progress in an exponential system. But success is built on compounding, and that compounding is based on delayed gratification. You should evaluate yourself on the right set of metrics.
Right set of metrics. What do you mean by that, sir? Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Simply by Tanwir Alam. With us as ever is Mr. Tanwir Alam, CEO and founder of Thinkart. Hello sir, how are you?
Great, thank you so much.
Now sir, till now we have talked about relationship, systems and how to build a meaningful life. Today I want to focus on something very specific about success and how for some people it is very easy, seems like they have achieved it overnight, and for some it is extremely difficult. Why do you think that is the case?
Honestly speaking, there is no such thing as overnight success. In fact, Rome was not built in a day, and all great things take times to mature. In fact, when I look at some great companies, take for example Infosys. It started in 81 until 92, what I would call the foundation year. And those were the years which were like invisible years, where they set up great credibility of delivering services, great processes, and that built client trust also. So that was the foundation year for them. Between 1992 and until 1999, where they had actually set up credibility. In 1993, they got listed. And when they got listed also, the subscription of the IPO was not very great. In fact, they were struggling initially. So, but what happened during that phase is that they had set up institutional credibility. They had created great corporate governance. They had actually created a transparent reporting mechanism that all led to building their institutional credibility. But the global recognition came between 1999 and 2000 when they got listed in NASDAQ. They were the first Indian company to actually follow the US GAAP reporting mechanism, and they benefited a lot from the Y2K demand, and that is where the global institutional investors started noticing Infosys. So to a lot of people during 1999 and 2000, people will say, oh, Infosys is an overnight success. But in reality, it is 18 years of hard work, resilient hard work, which went underway to that global recognition. So overnight success is a myth.
Alright, so what you're basically saying is that what we are seeing when it comes to the overnight success part is not the beginning, but actually the end result of the effort they have put into.
Yeah, actually it's globally proven. In fact, there is a research on 10,000 hours, which became very popular and because Mr. Malcolm Gladwell, he mentioned this in his book called Outlier. And there he actually quoted a beautiful example. That example was of a group called Beatles. They started playing band, the Beatle band, Paul McCartney and all. So if you actually look at their story, they went to play in an almost at about 60s, early 60s, and they were actually booed in Germany, and they was disheartened, and they say, okay, they are the band who will not survive. But what they did was very different. They relentlessly played almost 4 hours a day for 7 days a week, and they kept playing. And by the time when they actually was about 3-4 years down the line, they had done some 1200 plus live performances. Okay, and after such kind of a live performances, you always become good. The entire group started syncing very well. The quality of the composition was very tightly knit. The synchronization and live maneuvering at the synchronization became very good, and that group become Beatle. And that actually proves the point that all successes requires that minimum input of 10,000 hours. Whether it's in business, in profession, in real life, 10,000 hours is what has been used as an anecdote of minimum input required to achieve mastery over any skill set.
So let me get this straight. So you are saying that we have to put 10,000 hours to achieve success. If that is the case, why do people struggle to stay on course long enough?
Human mind is wired for immediate success. Now, take an example of a stone cutter trying to break a rock. He strikes 99 times, nothing happens. On the 100th strike, the stone cracks. Which was more powerful, the 100th strike or the first 99? In reality, the first 99 strike was the launch pad for the success. Okay. Secondly, there is a threshold. That 99 stroke was the threshold limit. Okay. Each one of us has to cross that threshold limit to achieve that success. And that is what is explained in 10,000 Hours in the book by Malcolm Gladwell. Human beings try to see linear progress in an exponential system. And you'll see a long flat curve before that break happens and you jump over. And that is the patient capital that is required. It is the 100th strike that gets the applause. But in reality, it is the first 99 stroke that led to the launchpad of the success. So, not having immediate success, disappoints people. And that disappointment is what makes people give away their good long-term goals midway.
Launchpad for success. So that's beautifully put. But let me ask you this. We live in a world that is filled with so much free information on this topic. From James Clear to Mel Robbins, everyone talks about, achieving success, the ways to go about it. If that is the case, why do people still struggle with it?
It's a very interesting question. And there's 3 strong reasons for it. See, when you read such kind of a book or a podcast or hear those podcasts, it gives your anxiety level drops. Okay. And when your anxiety level drops, that makes you feel that you're making progress. You feel that you've figured out everything and you are in control. So this, what we call, is actually a cognitive relief, because when you start reading something and you go through a podcast, you get what is called a dopamine release in anticipation. And this is nothing but a cognitive relief. This cognitive relief does not change your habit. Okay, that's the first reason. The second reason is knowledge actually sits in the prefrontal cortex of your brain, which is called the thinking brain. But the habit change occurs in what is called the basal ganglia, the automated part of the brain. And that change in basal ganglia happens with repetitions. And we have already spoken about that if you do 30 to 40 repetitions, you get familiar. If you do 60 to 80 repetitions, it becomes natural. And over 100 repetitions, it becomes your identity. Okay. So that identity change or habit is what leads to success. The third reason is why people feel happy just at reading is that brain is wired for instant gratification, but success is built on compounding, and that compounding is based on delayed gratification. Relief feels like progress, but relief does not compound.
So, sir, let me get this straight. What we have done is we have confused learning with installation.
Yes, you're right. It is the installation, and not only installation, a frequent update also to ensure that you stay on course.
Now, Tanwir sir, some would say that you are a fairly successful person. Is there any guiding principle or a philosophy that you followed?
See, I follow a simple philosophy. What they call is the 3D approach. Direction, disciplines, and durability. What do I mean by that? First, I decide where do I want to go? What's my goal? Okay. Once I get that direction right, then I commit to that discipline of doing that boring thing day in, day out. And durability means what I've realized that in all walks of your life, you will face challenges, you'll have ups and downs, and you'll have good days and bad days. You need to have that resilience and durability to sustain that bad phases also. If the journey is not tough, then we rest assured that the goal is not worthwhile. So when in 2013, we actually started this company, we made a very humble beginning. We're about 5-6 people from a very small office of 200 square feet thereabout. What did we do there? We did some silent work there. We set up the client advisory framework process. We set up the technology platform. We set all processes. We tried building client trust. Okay. That was the time when we were doing business over phone, and that was not very popular at that time. We were the first company to record that conversation and share the audio link with the client, building client trust. So those were the initial years where we did a lot of hard work. We made some progress, but the progress was not visible. Okay. Thereafter, now when I look at the same framework is also visible in wealth management and wealth building. You need to decide what are you saving for goal. You need to commit your annual investment into that goal, and you will face that market volatility of ups and downs. You need to have the durability of actually riding that market volatility. And while doing so, one thing is very, very important out here. You should evaluate yourself on the right set of metrics.
Right set of metrics. What do you mean by that, sir?
See, frequent evaluation is not bad. Evaluating the wrong metrics frequently is bad. So, for example, if you frequently evaluate emotional outcomes, then it's very harmful. But if you frequently evaluate process outcomes, that's very powerful. Okay. So, what do I mean by harmful evaluation? For example, if you're saying, am I growing too fast or not? Am I behind others? Is this even working out? All those kind of evaluation in the initial business stages of compounding is noisy and very small. And if you compare those noisy outcomes, it builds anxiety and then most likely you will give up. But on the other hand, if you do some good hard-hitting evaluation to see real progress, the good evaluation would be, am I able to acquire customer in a much better manner? Is my technology platform better than last year or previous quarters? Am I able to improve my margins? These are all process-related improvement-based evaluation. Now, the same thing applies in investment also. Am I adhering to my investment plan? Am I following the asset allocation? Am I actually trying to rebalance the portfolio based on my asset allocation? All those are structural questions, and evaluating them will make you make meaningful progress. But if you try to switch in, switch out based on market noises, what's happening at the US and Trump deals, what's happening in the Chinese market, if you have too many noises, you are going to make too many mistakes. So evaluating with the right set of metrics will make you make meaningful progress.
Wow, so that was amazing. First of all, thank you for sharing the personal story. Now, if someone who is listening to this podcast right now and, they want to have a key takeaway from this conversation, what do you say it should be?
I would say three things. Ambitious goals requires time. I would say time cap. 2, showing up regularly is half the battle won. Complete your 10,000 hours. 3rd, evaluate process outcomes and not emotional ones frequently. If you follow this diligently, please come back after a year and share your journey, how you have made progress. मंजिल तो मिल ही जाएगी, भटकते भटकते ही सही, गुमराह तो वो है जो घर से निकले ही नहीं.
Wow, that's a great note to end on, sir. Thank you for such a delightful conversation. And to our audience, stay tuned for the next episode.